Come on, Livingston, we're gonna go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We're gonna go on and on and on. Come on, Livingston.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across, it's turned in! It's Pittman who's got it! Livingston leads!
Road is long.
Can they get the ball back in? O'Brien.
Lead! And Livingston have the lead!
Man, you score.
If we march to
The full-time whistle blows and David Hayes celebrates! And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
come on, Livingston.
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Hello and welcome back to TalkLivi, the podcast dedicated to everything Livingston Football Club. As usual, Ewan joins me, but as predictable as my next shite, Callum has gone all Bertie Big Branches on us, so we've decided to upgrade our Callum this week. Making his debut on TalkLivi is lifelong Livy fan Callum Wall. Welcome to TalkLivi, Callum. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, lads.
Well, I mean, it's nice to have you on, Callum. Personally, you are an upgrade on Callum Brown. You take up less room as well. Because, I mean, he's just it's like having an oak tree
Massive.
in our studio. So it is quite nice to have someone who's more proportionately sized to my flat. So
Hope you're listening, Callum Brown.
just to make life confusing, there's another Callum introduced.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for coming on this week.
Coming up in TalkLivi this week, we take a look back at our first home game of the new season. We welcomed Hibs to the Tony Macaroni Arena. Not the best start to our home league campaign. We discuss all the major talking points from the game.
The big talking point in Scottish football this week, Aberdeen Football Club and the COVID-19 outbreak. We give our views on the situation later in the episode.
Last week we had a look at every Premiership team's home kit and rated them from least favourite to favourite. This week we do the same with away kits. Listen out for our favourites this week.
And finally on this episode we'll look ahead to the midweek game in Motherwell at Fir Park. We take a look at the opposition, top tactics and give our predictions. It was back to home comforts this week for Livy as we welcome Hibs to Tony Macaroni Arena. With Hearts no longer in the top flight, this could be classed as a derby for Hibs this season as they look to knock Livy off the top of the Lothians League. Bad day at the office?
Yeah.
Another one?
I mean, let's make it clear, we're recording this literally minutes after the full-time whistle, so we're three very unhappy Livingston fans. It's difficult to take any positives from the game, to be perfectly honest. I thought we were pretty much outclassed. The game was over by 40 minutes. Not good enough.
For me it was just that I would probably say that's our poorest display under Hope. What we're saying last week was, but I think we just weren't at it at all today, and the goals we gave away were cheap. We said early doors, Hibs looked like they were breaking on us so easily. We weren't disrupting the play like we normally would. I mean, we chatted last week and we constantly said how Hibs are a team you want to disrupt them. Like, they don't enjoy that kind of game, and I think we made it far too easy for them. We let them kind of take control of the game, and it was the first goal. I mean, I think Brown's at fault for two. The first two, personally. Brown's checked his shoulder and he seems surprised that Nisbet's popped up at the back post to tap it in, and then Nisbet's got in between Guthrie and Brown for the second as well.
The third's a comedy errors. Dreadfully.
There's no balance across the back line. You're playing a right footer as a left wing back, and you've got Kieran Brown that's played the majority of pre-season as a left wing back. You're taking everything out your attacks. You're constantly trying to play a diagonal ball to your left wing back. What happens if he brings that down? Ambrose is cutting in. Takes away that natural width that we're trying to get. You're then congesting the central of the area, the central of the park.
Yeah, I find it hard to, as I said, to take any positives of the game. That the defending was pretty schoolboy, to say the least. The first goals, we don't stop the cross. It's a cross inside the 6 yard box, tapping at the back post. Fitzwater should stop this, or should do better to try and stop the cross. as you say, Ewan Brown's looked over his shoulder, seen his man coming and just let him wander past him and tap it in. The second goal, again, pretty horrendous. I mean, it's a cross into the box.
McCrory could probably do a bit better as well.
Maybe, and the third one's just a comedy errors. I mean, the guy's popped up within 3 yards of the goal he put in the net. It's just a terrible performance. We looked lethargic. We didn't look at it. We looked second best right across the pitch. As you said, there was no bite in the midfield. We talked at length
Which
about...
is so unlike us. I think that's the frustrating thing, is it was very uncharacteristic, that performance, of what we've kind of come to expect.
The only one with bite in the first half was Sibbald.
Yeah.
Sibbald was all over the place. Sibbald's putting his foot in, he's sliding in, he's trying to create stuff, and then you take him off at half time.
Yeah, I agree. I think Sibbald was about the only one that came out with pass marks in the first half. I don't know if there was a change there to change the shape. Something needed to be done, to be honest, because if we'd kept going the way we were, it could have got worse than what it was. I think even though we scored, we got ourselves into a sort of second half lead, so to speak. To me, Hibs always looked the team more likely to score after that. We didn't really threaten. I thought Dykes was isolated up top most of the game. We're not making great use of the width. I thought Devlin was anonymous for the time he was on the park. Poor.
I didn't know he touched the ball until the 29th minute.
Well, thing is, when you're playing as a wing back, my dad was here watching the game and he was like, "Is the idea with wing backs not to add width?" But if you're just going to keep rifling the ball down the middle of the park, as a wide player or a wing back or a winger, you need service as well. You need the ball fed into you at times. The one time Devlin did get the ball, he hit the byline and got across it, and he threatened. As you mentioned, we don't have that natural, because we're deciding to play Effie as the wing back on the left hand side. We don't have that natural width coming from that side either.
You look at our performances against Hibs last season. We've put the ball into the channels and we've let Dykes or Robbo work off that. We've got change out of those centre halves. The centre halves are poor. We could have got at that Hibs backline today. You let them face their own goal and you let them make decisions. And they've constantly bottled it last season. That's where we picked up points. We've went away from what we were good at last season. We're not playing football in the right areas of the park.
I think that's the most frustrating thing for me, because I mean, we're labelled as this long ball team, and we all know ourselves that we're not a long ball team, but we've went to that in the first 2 games of the season for whatever reason, and it's proved it's not working. The change of formation baffles me. I get we need to try and keep oppositions on their toes a little bit, but don't fix something that's not broken.
From last season, when you look at it, the only real change in your personnel for your starting 11 is Forrest and for Lawless. And their natural replacement. He's a natural replacement coming in for Lawless. He's a winger that's going to try and hit the byline and put crosses in. He's going to cut in inside when it's on the other side of the park, and he's going to try and get some goals.
I think one of the things playing this setup, right? I know we played it kind of getting promotion from the Championship in our first year up, right? But I find the thing I'm noticing this time round when we're playing it, it's the support to Dykes. I think when you play 4-2-3-1, I think you've naturally got 3 players kind of coming on to the number 9 almost to pick up on the second balls, whilst I think when you're playing a flat 3 in midfield like that, I don't think there's quite the same. I almost feel like the gap's too big and there's not enough support for Dykes. I do think second half we were brighter, granted, but at the same time it's a lot easier to play when you're 3-0 down.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, Hibs done their job in the 40 minutes and they didn't have to work hard for it, and that's the most annoying thing for me. They didn't particularly do anything spectacular, Hibs, but they opened us up at will. As you mentioned, Ewan, the writing was on the wall very early on. We had I think it was a corner or a free kick we put in the box, and from that they had 4-on-2 right away. I mean, what's going on there? That happened 2 or 3 times before they eventually actually scored. It was happening far too often. I was concerned right for the off because we just didn't look at it, and I don't think Hibs had to do very much to win the game, and that's the most annoying thing.
Then, one kind of positive was a debut for Poplatnik today. I know it's probably quite a good game for him to make his debut, to be honest, because you're not expecting an awful lot when you're already 3-0 down. What did we kind of make of him?
I thought he came on and put himself about. As you say, it's an easy game to come on and do that. I mean, he's probably been asked at half time just to go and put himself about and do exactly what he'd done.
He's offered an outball. He's offered something a little different to
won
what
the
we had in
penalty
the
as
park.
well. Not 100% sure what the penalty was actually given for.
No.
To be
If
honest.
that's given against us, you're going absolutely mental.
Yeah.
It's a very, very soft penalty.
Yeah, I don't think we can have any complaints about their penalty, can we?
To be honest, that might
Stop watching.
Well, no, I watched it and I was just kind of like, what is Marv doing? He looks like he's generally just gone to body check him, and you can't even do that near your own 6-yard box.
I think we said it last week. When we have players off it, we look bang average, and we had
There's hardly any
a
players
lot
in
of players that were bang average today. I thought over the back line, there's nothing I can take away for that to be positive about.
I'm really disappointed in McCrory.
Midfield, maybe only Sibbald for me was the one that got pass marks. Pittman was quiet. Bartley done very little. Thought Gogic was the best man in the park for Hibs, to be perfectly honest. Although Nisbet got the goals, Gogic done
Morgan
everything.
was a constant threat down there left as well.
And up top, I mean, it's hard to have a go at Dykes because we mentioned how isolated he was up there and there was no sort of ball to him for to play off, but he done very little as well. I'm struggling.
You're playing it long to a guy against 3 centre-halves expecting him to do something and just pull it out of the bag. Play it into the channels and let him, like I said earlier, let him chase him. Let them make an error.
When you're going direct down the park like that, like as you say, you get the ball in the channels and you get their centre half split or whatnot, rather than just putting it down their throat all the time. You know, it's just going to keep coming back and forth. You need to try and get the ball to stick up there and then get the support to Dykes, because as we've touched on the last 2 games, it's very similar comments we're making about the 2 games. Totally. So I'm sure the management have noticed these things as well, and I'm sure it'll be something they'll be working on.
I think that the question has to be asked then: is this change of formation? Do we need to go back to the tried and tested of last season? We have the personnel, like Callum said. We've got the personnel to do that. It's an easy change to make. We're used to the system. Do we go back to the tried and tested for the next couple of games?
For me, yes. You're going into 2 games that you're up against opposition that have got tricky wingers that are going to hit you with pace, and Motherwell and Rangers. So if we don't sort it out and you're playing with just 2 wing backs that realistically were isolated, we're going to struggle. Rangers, if you look at the Rangers game, they've played with their left and their right back so far up the park that their 2 wingers are just going to cause havoc against us because they're going to have so much space. Go back, give them protection. Let's get it sorted. Let's get back to the basics of what we done last season. Let's get some points on the board.
I mind when Hoppy went to 3-5-2, right? And you could tell that they had drilled that. Right? It was so, it was very fluid. Is it maybe a case that they've just not had enough minutes playing the shape? Because I think, personally, we have the personnel to play this system as well. Like, I think Nicky Devlin as a wing back is potentially a great asset for us. You've got Taylor Sinclair who could play that position as well. We had a couple of really good performances before lockdown, i.e. the Hibs game away, we went to a 3 at the back. We did it against Celtic as well and we were excellent. So I think it's more down to the fact that they're getting used to playing that system, but I think they need to try and the bit that baffles me, I always go back to the Ambrose bit, but the pre-season games, it seemed that we were going Guthrie left side, Fitzwater middle and Ambrose on the right, and you go into the first competitive game and you go and switch it all about and just completely unsettle something that looked, from what I could see of highlights, we looked quite good.
Yeah. Well,
in the pre-season games.
Bruni mentioned how solid and how well equipped we'd looked in the pre-season games. I noticed there was comments saying, is the pre-season affecting us because we're used to playing our League Cup games in the group and a few pre-season games. Personally, I'm not buying that. You know, there's been teams that have played less pre-season games than us that have come into the season and started okay.
Well, Hibs have played a game less.
There you go. So I'm not buying that for a start. I just think we're well off it. We need to go back to the tried and tested. and big games coming up. That's a poor start to the season. I think there was a stat there that we'd only conceded 8 goals last season at home, all season.
And we've conceded half of that already.
Conceded half of that already. What
First
does
time
that
we've
tell you?
conceded 4 goals since 2015-16 season at home.
Yeah,
And that was
Morton 4-2. So there's something not going on, something not happening that we should be concerned about.
Hopefully we can pick it up for Wednesday night.
Yeah, definitely. We need some positive results for us to be more positive on here, because it's a struggle today. Scottish football's never boring. We've got that going for us for a start. Never a week goes by without controversy, and it's been no different this week. We're talking about Aberdeen and the 8 players who broke lockdown rules and have subsequently caused this postponement of the Aberdeen versus St Johnstone game.
Game in midweek as well.
So,
isn't it?
well, at the moment it's not confirmed as postponed, I don't think, but what are we all thinking about that then? It's a bit of an embarrassment, isn't it?
Well, according to the government, the SFA sent out to clubs a protocol for all players to stay in their own bubble. So they've broke the guidelines. So for me, they've got to forfeit the games. How's it? It's not fair to then reschedule the games, put that pressure on St Johnstone.
Thing is, this isn't the first time it's happened with the Aberdeen players as well, because were they not training in small groups near the start, or nearer the start of kind of lockdown as well? So it's not the first time it's happened. So you mean, are they being disciplined enough with the players up there? Or?
Do you know the players as well? Say you looked at the list. And it was just naive young players that were going out. But you look at it and it's Craig Bryson, Johnny Hayes. You've got Ash Taylor, I think was one of them.
Scott McKenna as well.
Scott McKenna.
All these guys,
they're internationalists. The guys that have played down south. They're guys that have got experience. This is where it gets pathetic. They've got beat last week and the guys have went out.
Well, that was one of the points McInnes made, wasn't it? It's like, you get beat by Aberdeen up here, you don't show your face in the city centre, you don't go out.
Yeah,
that for a starter. And I think he almost seemed more annoyed about that.
I think the way the club have handled it, you can show how angry Aberdeen are as a club. They're expecting probably massive fines to be coming in from the the SFA Football Association, and as a result, they've named the players.
Yeah,
there's no hiding. With the games getting postponed, did they need to name the players?
I think these players are very lucky that there's no fans in the ground, because I think if there was, they would be getting absolute dog's abuse for all sides, and that includes Aberdeen fans. I think they've brought Aberdeen Football Club into a bit of disrepute because of the situation in Scottish football as a whole. At the end of the day, you know, I got a feeling when this first all kind of came out that football was coming back in Scotland, that it was kind of on a leash still. From the government.
I think Nicola Sturgeon made that quite abundantly clear.
And I think the consequences of what Aberdeen players have done could have a consequence on the entirety of Scottish football, and that's financially for a lot of football clubs. If we stop the season again because of 8 Aberdeen players that couldn't keep themselves in the house for a few weeks at the start of the season, it's causing a lot of problems for other clubs. I think they should all be ashamed of themselves personally.
I mean, you touched on it kind of at the start, so you think they should have had to forfeit. What about you, Andy? What's your thoughts on that?
I'm struggling in terms of forfeiting the game, and I know what you're going to say, and I didn't want to jump in because I know what you're going to say. I think a fine for me with any loss of earnings from St Johnstone's point of view, so any money that St Johnstone's lost due to the postponement should come from Aberdeen and go directly to St Johnstone.
So who
it's hitting them in the pocket. Well, this is what I mean. You know, this is a problem. I think a points deduction, I don't think is right. I mean, we're talking about at the end of the season, if we come at the end of the season and St Johnstone stay in the league by a couple of points, or Aberdeen miss out of Europe on a couple of points, I think we look back and look at that decision and go, was that really the correct thing to do? Where I think if we hit them in their pocket, St Johnstone aren't then affected by it because they're getting the money from such a fine. I think it's a win-win for St Johnstone, and it's a punishment enough for everybody to see that actually that's not on, personally.
This game today, being live on TV as well, there's no sponsor for the league this year. It's an opportunity. A game's live on Sky Sports, getting broadcast across the nation. There's no other football on. This is a chance for Scottish football to show what it is.
I mean, if you're a player, you can put yourself in the window. It's a great opportunity actually for you, especially with the window being extended. I mean, my view on the whole thing is, I mean, I think Aberdeen were willing to play the games. That's the thing. I think McInnes was willing to play the games with a skeleton squad. So for me, they should have had to play and face the consequences of not having 8 first team players available. That, to me, that's punishment right there. Having to play the games. So I feel it's difficult to punish Aberdeen when they were willing to fulfil the fixture, regardless of kind of not having players available. So I think it's a tough one. But as you say, they've kind of put the whole of Scottish football into disrepute with it.
I'm just looking. So as of sort of 2:30 on Saturday afternoon, Aberdeen players that were involved put out a statement. So I'll just quickly read it and see.
The Sol 8, is it?
See what you guys think of it. So first and foremost, we would like to apologise to every AFC fan, the manager, everyone at the club, the football authorities, the First Minister, all healthcare workers, along with everyone else that has worked tirelessly around the clock to get the country, and in particular football, back up and running again. We as a small group of players made a huge error of judgment last weekend by thinking it was okay to visit a city centre venue together. None of us could have foreseen the escalation of COVID-19 cases in the Grampian area, nor did we deliberately attempt to flaunt or disobey government guidelines, which we all must adhere to, or indeed the clear guidance set out by the club. This was by no means a team night out, as has been portrayed, and while we attempted to comply with government social distance guidelines, we now recognise that a group of 8 exceeded the number of households permitted to meet up. This was a genuine error on our part as professional football players, and in doing so we have let our manager down. As players, we appreciate our club has gone above and beyond to put protocols in place to protect us, and it was never our intention to put those jeopardy, or to put our teammates or football staff at risk. As a player group, we once again apologise unreservedly to the fans, the manager and the board and all staff at the club. And it's signed Johnny, Michael, Scott, Matty, Sam, Dylan, Craig and Bruce.
Right, okay, so guys, you can now wake up again and join back into TalkLivi after we finish the Aberdeen statement. I think they know fine well what the rules are. You know, they know they have to be in a bubble. They should, especially these days, Aberdeen's one of those cities, it's a one-team city, right? And it's so out the way, the majority of folk up there do support Aberdeen.
Yeah.
So they're going to recognise them when they're out in a pub. And, you know, all it takes is a picture on your phone, and that's it, it's going everywhere. I just can't believe they've been, as you say, experienced professionals have had such a massive error in judgment like that.
Have they been living under a rock for the last 3 months? I mean, come on, guys. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that if you go out with eight pals for different households, that you shouldn't be doing that. You know what I mean? That's a weak-ass apology for me. It's not good enough. They've put the whole of Scottish football at risk, cancelling games, financial disaster for a lot of clubs. They should be ashamed of themselves as far as I'm concerned.
Last week we listed our favourite and least favourite Premiership home kits for the 2021 season. This week it's the turn of the away kits. Again, we all came up with our own favourites, but came to an agreement. Dubious.
No sure about the agreement.
Dubious on the old agreement. So last week we'll start with 12th place, which I think we're all in agreement is St Johnstone, because I don't believe they've got an away kit out.
Yeah, poor part for them. We're 2 games into the season, they don't have an away kit.
They've had plenty of time to get an away kit sorted.
For me, it's still better than Hibs.
To be fair, I said this, I think it's better than Rangers.
Listen, get the finger out St Johnstone, that's a shocker.
So, you know, if you come out with something, we might need to rejig, but currently you're bottom. So who have we got in 11th place?
This is going to sound really salty after today's disappointment, shall we put, but we went with Hibs.
I think it's minging.
It's awful.
It's horrible.
I mean, what is it? Silver with white pinstripes and a purple collar sort of thing.
I think it's a
the
horrific
only
thing.
the only thing that saves it for Hibs is the thank you NHS thing. Other than that, it's a pretty horrendous effort. 11th is probably too good for it, but yeah, 11th place Hibs.
Yeah. Next up we had St Mirren. There's something about the St Mirren kit. It's got the stripes, but I don't know if you've noticed the stripes are the wrong way. Like they don't go all the way up.
Yeah.
I can't even interchange. Right.
Yeah.
It looks strange. As good as their home kit is, I think their away kit's a bit weird.
Yeah, and
there's just something about it. That
we did
Honking.
don't mention words, Cam. We did praise St Mirren's home efforts and Joma for being an improvement over the years, but it's a pretty awful effort. And even the sort of, I don't know, the sponsor thing that they've got, like, I don't know. It's like I don't know how to describe it. It's like jaggy bits around the.
As we mentioned last week, if you want us to design a kit for you, you know we've got all the technical terms
Do you know what? Did Dumbarton not have a similar kit a few years ago for the away?
It's
Red and white stripes.
No idea, mate.
I'm sure they did.
I think it's fairly similar to previous away kits that St Mirren have had when we beat them in the Championship 4-1. I'm sure they played in that red and black kit that season.
Rings a bell, but I think the stripes went all the way up.
I think they were actually in sync.
Yeah, but
not great.
Then above them, I can't believe this is as high. I think this strip's boring as Rangers away kit. I don't think it's just bland.
I don't think the photo does it much justice. I think there is a bit more design to it.
And this isn't me just being salty because I don't like Rangers. You know, I don't know if anyone's aware of
it
that on
is.
the podcast.
I think it is.
Off air, you were wanting it to be 12. So I think there is a bit of saltiness going on there.
I'd rather not have an away kit than that.
I don't think it's that bad.
It's
to be
not
honest.
that bad.
I think it's personally. I mean, there's one that's going to be coming up later on that's it's way higher than my personal opinion. I was outvoted. We'll come to that later. I think Rangers is a much better effort than the one that I'm talking
Not
about.
having that.
Nah.
Next up on the list we had Hamilton Accies. Again, this caused a bit of debate. You really like it,
I think it's a cracker.
I think it looks like they've got an Adidas vest and then got sleeves, like the wrong sleeves delivered, and they've stitched them on.
It's something that would be on your Grand's curtains. It's on the sleeves.
Another bit of fashion advice to Callum there.
It doesn't look right. It just doesn't look right.
I think it's decent, to be fair. I do. I like that bit of design rather than. I mean, you're talking about being plain and boring, and without criticising ours too much. We've put ours quite high, but you've criticised Rangers for being plain and boring. Hamilton's went a bit different, but you've put them way down. For me, it's a decent effort. I like it.
It's the sleeves.
I like it though. It's different for me. It's
We know you like different.
There it is.
Then above Hamilton, we've got ourselves. I think our away kit's a cracker actually. I think it's a really clean looking away kit, and I like the pattern in it as well. I like the kind of contrast in the black. I genuinely think it's a good away kit.
It's alright. It's nothing spectacular. It's nothing too bad. I think we could have done better, but I don't think. I'm not going to complain too much.
I'm with you, War. I think it's an okay kit. It's nothing
I
spectacular.
like us in a black kit. I've got a thing with us in black.
Oh yeah, I like
really
black.
like us in a black kit.
I do like our as a away kit, or sometimes our home kit's black. But I just think that we could have done a bit more. I'm not a particular fan of the collar style that we've got, but yeah, okay, fair enough.
Then we had 6th place. We had Celtic with their kind of light green number. Again, I quite like an Adidas kit.
I don't like it.
And I think Adidas have done a cracking job with the Celtic kits this year. I
don't like how it looks like
them-
you've got two
I think
captain's
I think
armbands
ever
at
so
the bottom of
slightly.
each sleeve.
I think
Captain's armband.
we got called out last week for having Hamilton bottom and Celtic second, despite it basically being the same kit. But it was just that subtle differences in terms of the gold and the sleeves being the hoops as well, rather than just the plain like Hamilton's was. I do like the Celtic away effort. I think it's a decent attempt. Not much sort of to it, but I think it's alright. The colour's decent. It's a bit different.
Yeah. Next up was Ross County. I had them quite low. You guys both really like it though.
I think it's a nice kit. I think it's something a bit different. It's got different parts of design.
Wait, sorry, Callum. You think you like it because it's a bit different, but you hated Hamilton's because it was a bit different. At least be consistent here.
At least there's matches. It's not like two different strips being knitted together by your gran on a Sunday.
At least
The
be
thing
consistent.
I found this one more difficult to do, right? The away kit one, because I think away kits it's like you could have acid and make the away kit, right? You can go a bit bonkers with the away kit, whilst with your home one you've got your obviously traditional colours typically, so it's difficult to try and make your home kit quite exciting sometimes.
I think in general the away kits have been better than the home kits this season. I like Ross County's decent design. I like the colours, fresh, tidy, clean looking. Collars okay. I like it. I had it higher.
Then this one, me and War are both in agreement, deserves its
Shambles.
rightful place in European
Shambles.
qualification, which is Killies.
Absolutely.
Cracker.
I think both the Killies kits are crackers. Bruni described the home one as pyjamas.
I
last
like
week.
I like Hummel's design this season. I've said that. I think that kit is nice.
What's special about it? It's
I like-
white.
You just talked about the detail on Celtic's home one.
Yeah.
I like
There's
the
a lot of
detail, the
detail.
stitching and stuff like that on
What
it.
detail?
The
It's got a
sleeves
big,
and the collar.
it's
like-
got a big stick on Browning's Baker sticker on the front. It's not even.
Aye,
like the
look at the
Bakers.
state of you. You look like you enjoy the Bakers.
Not this.
I'm genuinely gobsmacked you didn't like their kit more
Nah.
because it's got a bloody Baker sponsor.
What extra design is? It's white with a Hummel design on the
I
sleeve.
think it's a genuinely really nice kit.
What extra design? You zoom in the photo and there's different designs across the
there's
top.
absolutely not. It's just.
I
think
like
it
it.
has a touch of retro about it.
Yeah, I like it.
Retro.
I do like a retro kit.
Oh come on, guys! I'm not having that. It's an absolute joke.
Third place. We'll move on because this could go on a while about the Kelly kit. Right, is Aberdeen. I think we were all in agreement. We like the Aberdeen one. It's a cracker actually.
Yeah, I think
It's
they've
fairly
done
similar.
a decent job.
It's fairly similar to a couple of kits I've had over the last
Yeah.
few years, but I like it.
They've done a decent job here. When we're talking about plain
Is it not quite a
designs,
traditional Aberdeen
Yeah,
thing? The
wee
gold
bit.
and black in it as well.
It's not plain because they've got those lines down the front. I think the way they've done the sponsor on the front goes with the top quite well. Adidas have produced again, I think.
Yeah.
The
Oh, nice
Aberdeens.
kit.
Yeah.
Wait, now I changed mine last minute for this. I had Motherwell top for ages until the Dundee United kit got released. So second, we've came to an agreement on Motherwell's being second.
For me, Motherwell was first.
Yeah,
I
but
love a retro kit.
you got outvoted on that one.
You did.
Um,
And to be fair, only just because Motherwell's is an absolute cracker.
That is a cracker.
The collar's brilliant, and you know
the retro
sometimes.
badge as well.
I like
it's
the
the
badge.
MFC as
Yeah.
well.
Sometimes on a football kit with the collars, they can be a bit sort of, they're just there, they're a bit meh. You know what I mean? Whereas Motherwell's, it looks like a decent collar on it. It almost looks like a polo shirt
You
collar.
are an obsessive for collars.
No, but I do like a collar in a football kit. I do. I like I'm actually wearing the FBT one with the collar. I like a collar top. But
And
I
here
think-
you'll see Andrew modelling the FBT number.
No one wants to see that.
I think Motherwell's again. I think the whole fact that they don't have a sponsor on it brings it up a level in terms of it doesn't ruin the look of the top. I think they're probably unfortunate not to get top spot with that as well.
But to be fair, I think for me, top spot when it got released the other day was, in my opinion, a rightful winner, which was Dundee United. I think, as I described, it has that perfect, a bit mad, right? But I think it's genuinely brilliant. That kit, I think it's an absolute belter.
Callum, I've not really heard your opinion because we kind of jumped the gun and went Dundee United's top and then just came straight into recording. So this will be interesting.
For me, Dundee United was second. I do like it as a kit, but I preferred Motherwell's. I think it is a cracking kit. It's got something that is a little different compared to what you probably see from an away kit. You can, as Ewan said earlier, you can actually be a bit wacky. You can actually go and try something a bit different, see how it goes. But it's good enough effort. But for me, still would have been Motherwell top.
See, I like it. I genuinely like a purple kit. I liked our purple kit when we were in it for the away top. I think it's a standout. Not enough teams wear purple for me. The orange sets it off.
Not enough teams wear purple for me.
Well, you know, I think it's
What a random. You know what really does my fox? Not enough teams wear purple.
I just think it's different. You know, no other team wears purple. I just think it's different. I like how it's been set off with the orange or the tangerine sleeves and the bottom of it, and the black sort of sleeves as well. Fantastic effort. It's one of the tops. It's probably going to be a bit Marmite. Some people will absolutely adore it.
In the 12th man chat, it was very much a split, was it? Some folk were like, that's a belter, and then other folk were putting like sick emojis, basically.
Yeah, it is one of them that's going to split opinion, but we love it. So that's our number one for us. Do you want to do a wee rundown again on what we had?
Yep, so Rangers were bottom. St Johnstone bottom for obvious reasons. Hibs 11th, St Mirren 10th, Rangers 9th, Hamilton, then ourselves, Celtic 6th, Ross County in 5th, Killie rightfully in 4th, Aberdeen 3rd, Motherwell 2nd, and Dundee United top.
Great kits this year, definitely the away tops better than the home tops for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and a rightful winner with Dundee United.
Yeah.
Don't at us. It's time now to preview our midweek trip to face Motherwell, or the team more commonly known around these parts as Livi Reserves. We bring you this preview in association with new fans media outlet The 12th Man, a place for fan media from clubs across the country to come together under one banner and produce the best fan media content available. Go and check them out on Twitter, 12th Man XII, or head to their website www.12manmedia.com, where you'll find all the brand new articles, podcasts and videos over there. It's the first midweek game of this new season, a trip to Fir Park. It's not been the best of starts for either side, but it's another tough looking game for us, isn't it?
Well, we don't have a particularly good record at Fir Park either. I think we've shown some decent performances there over the last couple of seasons. You know, the 1-1 draw, the game we lost 2-1 last year, I thought we were more than worthy of a point in that game. But we've also had some absolutely hellish displays there. Yeah, in particular, as you say, first 45 minutes, the 3-0 game and the 3-2 one.
Last game of the season.
Last game, but it's a bit strange because I think both sets of fans would have expected a bit more from their opening couple of games than what they've got. I think everyone was a wee bit surprised that County beat them up there. But it's going to be a tough game. Motherwell, I think, can be a bit like us. I think they know how to scrap. And I think that's why they've tended to do alright against us. Because as much as Robinson won't want to admit it, his team isn't as fluid footballing wise as I think he makes out that they are at times. I think they know how to be a bit rough and mess teams up a bit. So I think it's going to be a really tough game, but we desperately need a reaction after that performance today.
My worry for Wednesday night is Motherwell like to play with fast winners. They like to play on the break, hit it wide and let's get it in, and they've got a number of options up front. They could go with Chris Long, they could go with Jordan White, go with Tony Watt, guys that are actually instinctive in the box, that are going to put the chances
all guys
out.
who are pretty much a focal point, a target man, isn't that?
Yeah. Only one that you could say is probably not Tony Watt, isn't exactly a target man, but Tony Watt was probably the best defender I've seen actually up against Craig Halkett.
Yeah,
whenever we
when he was at St Johnstone, I think he got the better of Halks a couple of times actually. So it'll be interesting to see how they line up because they've got a few different options.
So
I'm more worried about how we line up.
I think they've been kind of going with a 4-4-2, and to be fair, the personnel they've got, they should be doing a lot better.
Turnbull out wide.
Turnbull out wide, and I believe Motherwell fans are not convinced by it. They feel like he's been a bit wasted out there. So potentially something to look at for us to take advantage of.
Having a look at the lineup today, I seen Hasty got dragged off at half time as well. Right,
I didn't realise. Obviously, it was another poor result for them. Obviously, we'll talk about us in a wee bit, but they've now went 2 games, 2 opening games of the season, 2 games that they probably were targeting for wins. Ross County away lost 1-0, and Dundee United at home, newly promoted Dundee United, lost 1-0. So they've not scored yet, and with the attacking power that they've got, that's a bit surprising.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, they like to play with kind of wide players. I don't know how that. I'm a wee bit worried because of the way we're playing with this setup. Playing with wide like wingers kind of up against our wing backs, it could it'll be interesting to see if we do tweak it, but I have a funny feeling we're going to stick with 3-5-2, to be honest.
I don't see how we can stick to 3-5-2. I mean, the first half against Hibs was horrendous. There's no taking away from it. There's no sort of beating around the bush here. It was horrific. We changed it slightly in the second half and we looked a bit more solid. Whether that was the fact that Hibs took the foot off the gas, probably that had a bit to do with it as well. But we did look better.
They were an autopilot second half. They've got a game on Wednesday night and they just managed it. It was management the game properly.
To me, it's very important we get something from this game. We've got Rangers after this one. It's
Aberdeen as well. Up at Pittodrie, isn't it, as well? Which we don't have a great record in recent years up there. So. And
then we've got County and Hamilton.
We need to get back to the basics for me. I think we've tried to be clever the first couple of games of the season, change things up formation wise, change the way we're playing. We need to go back to what we were doing best. That was hounding the opposition, getting in their faces, putting the tackles in, getting men in around dikes, getting the ball wide, defending properly, doing the basics defensively rather than try to play it out. Get the ball to fuck. You know, get away from the danger area.
Get the ball to fuck.
We based our success. We based our success on doing the simple things in football right, and I think we've kind of went away from that over the last couple of games. Get back to that, and that gives us the best chance to get something out of this game for me.
Yeah, for me, I still think we're going to persist on playing a 3-5-2. I don't know why, but I just have this kind of nagging thing in my head, because I think they know fine well they've got personnel there that suits that system, but you also look at us, and you've touched on it, well, we have players to basically just go a carbon copy almost the last year with 4-2-3-1. I think he might change it because it's an away game, just to be a bit more solid. Double up maybe a bit on the, as you say, they like to play with wide players, don't they? So he might switch to doing a 4-2-3-1 purely to try and double up from a defensive point of view.
I actually think there could be a few changes on Wednesday night, as we're probably trying to manage a few players.
Well, the gaffer's mentioned it a few times, hasn't he? Like this month, 6 games. You know, when you've been on a layoff for 5 months, it's a lot of games in a short space of time. So again, I agree with you. I think they'll make changes.
Again, it's the same for everybody though.
It's the same for everyone, but
I think
players deserve to
no, totally. I think if you look at the styles they play, then I mean, Callum Brown, thankfully he's not here to look ahead to this because he's got a massive chip on his shoulder to do with Motherwell and the whole sort of media darling look that they're a great footballing side, where in reality
they're a gang.
Well, okay, Callum, but I was going to be a bit more politically correct than that. But yeah, I mean, can you see Jordan White coming in? Obviously, we know all about Jordan White from his time at Livingston. They'll be looking at the game going, right, Livingston's notoriously big, strong, physical side. Let's bring in our big, strong, physical players. Could that play into our hands a little bit in terms of encouraging us to get the ball down and play?
Big Jordan was always better with the ball into his feet. He was never brilliant in there for me. I always thought he was better getting the ball into his feet and actually turning and trying to play forward facing into the goal. And
when you zipped it into him, he
held it up. He'd hold it up, he'd then link play. He'd go from there. But for me, if they go to try and play long to Jordan, then I think we can exploit that all day. Yeah, especially if you've got Guthrie. Guthrie dominated a lot of aerial battles last season. If you get the two of them up against each other, White likes to fall. You seen that on Monday night when he came on live in the telly as well. He does like to go down with a bit of a touch. You're not going to get as many chances as that in the Premier League.
Basically, you're calling him a diver.
I'm not saying he's a diver. He feels a bit of contact and he goes down very easily.
I think you touched on it a wee bit earlier. I think it's imperative we start well in the game. I don't think we've particularly started well against St Mirren or against Hibs and previous games against Motherwell. We've been out the game before half time at Fir Park a couple of times because they're not starting well. It's imperative we start well.
I want us to go back to a hoppy tactic. Frustrate for the first 45 and then we go from there. Let's go and frustrate. Let's get ourselves back to basics. Let's get a bit of confidence going, because there's not going to be much confidence in the boys at the moment.
Well, I think if you look back to the 2-1 game at Motherwell last year, I think we did go with an approach in that game to frustrate, and try and keep them at bay, and then second half try and gradually open the game up a bit more.
Yep.
And we were very unlucky not to come away with something that day. But again, he set up to double up in the wide areas.
Yep.
So as much as I have this nagging feeling, he might go with 3-5-2. He might, the gaffer and Davey might look at that game and go, oh, actually we kind of nullified them quite a bit in the wide areas setting up like that. So it'll be, as I say, it's going to be quite interesting to see what we do.
So if we stick to the 3-5-2 then, what changes do you make? We've bemoaned the fact that we look a bit disjointed defensively in terms of players playing out of position. So what changes would you make if we're going to stick with that for this game?
For
You need a
me,
left footer playing left wing back. You need a natural balance across your back line. If that's moving Brown out there or if that's bringing in Aaron Taylor Sinclair. I would be dropping Fitzwater. I don't think he's done anything in the first 2 games that make him look like he deserves to be in the starting lineup. You then put Brown, Guthrie and Ambrose, your 3 centre halves that you finished with last season. That you actually, we were solid.
Has Devlin done enough to keep his spot? Did we bring McMillan in there, Young Player of the Year?
Nicky's potentially still coming back from an injury.
I mean, the point I was making, the wide players, it's difficult, right? As a wide player, if you're not getting any sort of service, if the ball's not getting fed out to you out there, you're limited as to what you can do. So yes, Nicky's been quiet, but again, it's a bit like we talk about Dykes. Dykes wasn't getting any service. Well, wide players need a bit of service as well. They need to get the ball to be effective. And so I think it's harsh. But again, the gaffer makes changes after poor performances. He's always done it. Because they've obviously not done their job for that particular game. So I agree with you, I could see another 2 or 3 changes getting made.
We've obviously we spoke about the elephant in the room last week. We'll speak about it again. Again, I'll make the same joke. I'm not the elephant. Form on grass, form away from home. I think it's 3 wins.
I can actually see a tumbleweed go past there just as he came out with that guy again.
I think it's 3 wins and something like 38 away games on grass. It's not brilliant, is it? I mean, it doesn't give a good impression in terms of we're defending the plastic pitches and things. It doesn't give a good impression. You know, I know what you're going to say about we've only lost so many games, we've drawn a lot of games, but it doesn't give a good impression.
Well, no, I'm actually confident we'll win because we've won our 3rd game of the season, the last 2 seasons, away from home on grass.
That's us getting beat.
There's a stat for you. There's a good stat for you. What was that? St Mirren and Ross County.
And Ross County.
Okay. Yeah, good shout. Good shout on top of that. It's not the best record though, is it?
But there's only one way to fix it, isn't there? And it's to start getting results. It's the only way folk will stop talking about it.
Us as well, us included, because it always crops. We have to speak about it because it's there, you know. And the problem is that if our home form drops from such high standards where we were over the last 2 or 3 seasons to poor, we could be in a battle.
Yep.
You know, because if we're not winning games away from home and we're not winning as many games at home, you know, that's obviously going to take us far and away down the table. You know, and we all predicted a great season ahead with a great squad. Big reality check.
I knew I'd regret that first place prediction.
Big reality check.
I said we'd finish 3rd and look, that's right well. Do you know, looking at our away form, we need to be more professional. The amount of times that we had Leeds away from home last season that we didn't see games out properly, that were in winning positions that we'd end up going and drawing. St Johnstone, Hibs. You take those games away, we're not having this chat. We're actually seeing the games out, we're managing, we're higher up the table. We're in a convincing position during those games, and it's individual mistakes. It's poor defending. Keeps shot back past St Johnstone, trying to play a high line in the 92nd minute against Martin Boyle. It's mistakes like that as a team that are costing us, and then I don't know if it's in the players' minds.
My point with the away form is, I think our first season back up, when we went behind in games, I was never confident we would get something away from home. Whilst last year I think there is. Yes, we still didn't get some. We kind of threw away a couple potential results, but I think the positive is we put ourselves in a position to win games away from home last year, which I think was an improvement. I think we actually set up to try and take teams on a bit more away from home.
Is that a concern this season then? Because already, and I didn't want to read too much into it. It's only 2 games into the season, but already, first game of the season, I felt when we went behind, we didn't look like scoring. Again, against Hibs, I felt like we didn't look particularly threatening, we didn't look like scoring. That's going to be a big concern then?
For me, there was nothing really in the game until the first goal was scored. And then the heads dropped. We looked like we were set up to go and try and nick a 1-0 today, or try and get a point. As soon as we conceded the first goal, the head was down.
And it's not like us.
It's not like us. We normally bounce straight back from that. But do you know when you're listening to the stream, the only person you could hear shouting was Martindale. There was no leader on the park that actually seemed to be taking control of the situation. And do you know last season the amount of times you would see Marv in the park trying to get players? You'd see Dykes from the front telling people to get up and support him. There was none of that.
It's a go-to Holt phrase, isn't it? Being proactive rather than reactive. And said it last week. Nobody really kind of went and took the game by the scruff of the neck, and I think we lacked that today.
The one player with the fighting spirit today was Sibbald.
Yeah.
Sibbald was flying into 50-50s. He's trying to get the ball. He's trying to get it down. Obviously, there's a couple of passes that weren't maybe up to scratch, but he was putting himself in those positions to try and make them. Everything he was trying to do was trying to go forward.
So we've kind of spoke about the formation then. So if we were to stick with this 3-5-2, who plays against Motherwell? Let's hear your predicted sort of starting lineup then.
If we were to go with that, well, McCrory's the obvious one in goals.
McCrory will play on Wednesday because he can't play on Sunday. Unless we decide to chuck in Stryjek, but instead of putting him in just against Rangers for his first game.
Then I would maybe give him a run out. I'd let McMillan play at right wing back. I would have Effie, Guthrie, Brown, and then Taylor Sinclair left. 3 centre mids. For me, Pittman's been quiet, but Pittman's one of those ones you know what you're going to get with Pittman. But I think Crawford maybe deserves a run out. I'm a big fan of Robbie. I think he's a really good player.
I was going to suggest him for that bite.
Yeah. So I would maybe have Crawford in. I think it could be Sibbald. Sibbald obviously came off early today, so I think it'll probably be Pittman, Crawford, Bartley if I was to pick, and then maybe bring Forrest back in ahead of Robbo. I don't know.
What about Suter? I think he's been dealt a harsh hand. Whenever he played it, I mean, I know he was a bit sort of Marmite in terms of some people like him, some people loathe him, but he's always that unpredictable player that could create something, wasn't he?
A spark, isn't it?
Also that set ball, the set pieces. I think he's probably our best player to deliveries into the box. So are we lacking that as well? Is that maybe an option to bring him in?
For me, I would say Suda's better off the line. If we're not playing the 4-2-3-1, then you kind of, for me, Suda's really ineffective. He's not going to...
You have him floating in about Dykes, so kind of getting in pockets.
That's just what I mean. Dykes winning flick-ons, holding the ball up, the wee sort of passes in behind for Suda to run on to.
For me, Suda likes to get his man, take him up one-on-one and then try and beat him. Then try and get the ball in. That's why look at St Mirren away last season, where he's drifted in from off the wing. Yeah. And he's got in those positions, he's scored the 2 goals. I think Suda's better as a winger, for me, and I don't think Robbo will play Wednesday night. I think that we'll manage him. Robbo normally doesn't.
Always been quite careful with Robbo.
Very careful with Robbo, and we've got a big game on Sunday. So if Robbo plays on Wednesday night, he doesn't play on Sunday.
Yeah. So going into the game, looking ahead to Motherwell, predictions then. It's a hard one because obviously after, like I said earlier, we're doing this podcast straight after the Hibs game, so we're still, even though we're sounding a bit cheerier now, we're still quite despondent, so it's hard to predict after that. But what do you think, Ewan, for the Motherwell game?
I'm going to be positive.
Again.
I'm going to be positive, and I'm going to say I'm going to stick with our ritual over the last 2 seasons. I think we're going to win.
Third game on grass this season.
I'm going to go for an absolute scrap fest 1-0.
Okay. Callum Brown usually does this week, but Callum will get a prediction for you instead and replace Callum.
I can see it being 0-0. I think both teams are just going to go out to frustrate each other. It's not been a great start to the season for both. Both teams are going to be scared to lose because they're going into the 4th game of the season to potentially have no points.
I take 0-0 to be honest, because I'm going to be the pessimist this week. I'm really struggling to take any positives for the first 2 games. I think Motherwell although they've been poor, not scored, I think they'll be at it for this game. This will be a massive game for them. It's a massive game for both teams, but they are at home, so it's on them to get a result. 2-0 Motherwell for me.
I just think this game, we are good at wanting to frustrate, and I think this could play into our hands a wee bit. I don't know, I've got a weird feeling.
Listen,
I think we need a massive step up from the boys in the park compared to the last two performances.
We 100% do. We need a performance for the players. We need to get back to scrapping, and we just need to step it up because it's not been good enough. So hopefully Wednesday night brings that, and we get back to sort of some more positive results going forward.
As we said at the very beginning of the podcast, we're doing things slightly different this week, so we plan to bring you a second episode during the week, looking back at the Motherwell game and a look ahead to the Rangers game as well. So keep your eyes peeled on Thursday night for that drop in on our social media channels.
Talking of social media, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram by simply searching for TalkLivi. You'll find all the links to this episode and all our previous episodes over there.
You can also find all our episodes on all good podcast streaming sites, including iTunes and Spotify. We're also on YouTube, search for TalkLivi and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If none of those options suit you though, all you have to do is head to our website, talklivipodcast.libsyn.com, where you'll find every single episode we've done over the last few years.
Callum, thanks very much for stepping in for your namesake this week.
Thanks for having me on,
no,
boys. Enjoyed it.
I think it's almost an improvement on Callum Brown. If you like Callum all better than Callum Brown,
I mean, this Callum's got 2 L's.
It's the only way to spell it.
Yeah.
So if you prefer this Callum, let us know, because we could always.
I can't put a weird voice every week. It's not happening.
No, but seriously, you're welcome back anytime. So thanks for joining us, Callum.
But don't forget, we'll be back Thursday. But for now, from Callum, Andy, and myself, hope you have a great week.
Livingstone, no Livingstone.